Okay, I think we are live. Get stuff fired up and get rolling here in just a moment. So first of all, I was going to bring over this guy real quick. So I realized this earlier today that I had made a mistake previously with the 2.6.0 release. So there were several comments in the chat about trying to find the button assist class, which is something new that came in with the theming pull request. And people were saying that they couldn't find a reference to it. I went poking around and realized that when I was testing my Azure DevOps build, I had disabled the NuGet deployment. So I just turned that on a few moments ago, and so there should be a new 6.0 build coming out. So if we actually go to NuGet, might even be live already, we'll see. So material design. So last updated 17 minutes ago. So this should now be live. This version has all of the theming information and theme assist stuff. So we might just post that one real quick here in the chat so that other people can find it. Let's see. So let's see. Didn't realize CI builds had been disabled. Let's see, we'll post version 2.6.0 CI 412, 2.6.0 CI 412, and that is not how you do a markdown link. I very much enjoy putting links on a lot of my stuff. I find that it helps keep things readable while still keeping things small without cluttering stuff up. So it is a worthwhile thing to become a little more familiar with Markdown. So let's see, so 2.6.0 is now live. This contains the new button assist class. Okay. So that's out there. So I wanted to start with getting so this pull request right here from Tide. The demo app that we have here has been slowly getting a little more jam-packed full of everything. So we've gotten all of this button page, and this is probably one of the biggest offenders that's just huge. There's lots of stuff tied into this, and going along with that, just there's all this extra content to the right that you don't know about. There's no horizontal scroll, and I really kind of prefer to avoid the horizontal scroll. For this header, it's not that big of a deal to me, but for this content, having stuff cut off like this without any indication that, hey, look, there is actually more stuff, and then this kind of obnoxious guy ends up covering this stuff up down here, and it just gets a little messy. So I had put in an issue specifically asking people who are willing to get this cleaned up, and specifically this 1250 is the issue here. So clean up the buttons page in the demo app, and it looks like Tide has probably cleaned up all of these issues. So we're going to take a quick peek because this pull request shows that it's in a clean merge state. So we're going to just jump over here real quick. It might actually be easiest to just jump over and look at the new stuff. So it looks like several new pages. We've got a ratings bar page, a toggles page. That's the CS for this guy here. Great. So it looks like just a couple new pages built in with some stuff moved around. and it's probably easiest if we just pull open the pull request and look at it. So I always love my Git Kraken for this because it makes my life a lot or a lot easier verifying pull requests, because you can just double click and it goes and does the hard effort of creating a Git remote, checking out the branch, pulling it down so that you can go through and look. And it looks like this is probably why it's a clean merge. Tide's gone through and kept it up to date with the latest changes, so that makes it nice and easy for me, which if you're watching this, Tide, thank you. That really does help make my life easier and get stuff merged in quicker. So we're going to take a look at this, and then I think we'll probably clean up some more of the 260 pull requests and see if we can get that release a little closer to out the door. And if we can get a bit of those guys chunked out, I may end up even doing a couple other open source projects that I commit to on this stream as well. So there's another one called System Command Line. I will pull that guy up if people are interested. Let's see here. It's this repository underneath the .NET organization, Command Line API. It's basically a simple library with sort of three big purposes all around command line apps. So there's the basic library, which is designed to make parsing that string array that comes into your main method in a sane manner and gives you a lot of helpers and various things. There's a rendering library, which needs lots of love. That's probably where I'll spend some time playing. That's designed to make rendering output to the console a lot easier, especially with virtual terminal mode and that sort of thing. And then there's Dragonfruit, which is actually the most exciting of all of them, in that it lets you write strongly typed main methods. So I'll just jump over here to the wiki real quick, because I believe it shows a pretty good example in here of what you can do. Because normally this is what your main method looks like when you build a new console app. But with Dragonfruit, you can now write your main method like this. And it'll generate help pulling in the XML docs for you and invoke your method and pass the appropriate values through, so that you can focus on what does my console app need to do, and not how do I deal with this string array. So might have a little fun and poke around in this library, since I've done quite a bit of work in that. So back to where we were going. Demo app. We want to look at this pull request to see what's going on with the buttons. I think I've got enough caffeine. I do also have a slightly different mic situation tonight, which I think is going to be a little bit cleaner when it comes to actually recording. Let's just turn that off. Don't need you. Okay, so let's take a look here. So new buttons page is probably the first place to look. So we've got buttons. This is a lot cleaner. Nothing floating to the side. Buttons with corner radius. I wonder if we should break these out. Maybe, maybe not. Those are probably fine. Buttons with progress. And the pop-up box ones. So the only thing I'm noticing is these pop-up box guys getting a little cut off at the bottom. They probably just need a little extra margin. And that guy there. And I might default this guy to checked. Let's just fix that here real quick. While we're in here, we've got live XAML editing turned on, so let's live edit the XAML. I think we can just get both of those little, just minor UI things cleaned up. So let's see, the pencil, we want to go over here. So this is the checkbox, and I think what we're going to do is we're going to default this guy to is checked. That way, when you first come in here, you can actually click this rather than needing to do the double click. And then let's deal with the other guys getting cut off a little bit. So what's going on there? I think it's probably just an alignment issue. So XAML display. I wonder, I think this thing is derived from yeah. Let's just put a little bottom padding on it. So let's see, left, top, right, 5 on the bottom. Oh, this probably actually needs to be margin, not padding. And I think padding is probably being dropped by the template that's being put on this control. Let's just put 5 on the bottom and see how that comes out. Interesting. That did not do what I expected. When in doubt, play this around a little bit. Ah, no, it was the scroll bar. Maybe it did work the first time. Let's take this off. Thought it was getting cropped, but it could have just been, yeah, it was just the scroll bar. Putting that extra margin on there fixes the scroll issue. So we'll just add 0.5 on the margin to both of those to make them line up straight. Now they aren't covering anything up. They're both over-eager. Wonder what is the real difference between these two? So is this just showing off custom opacity? This is showing off, because they're very, very similar buttons. I guess this one's got the command handlers, this one's disabling a button, and this one's changing the opacity of it. We'll leave it. Okay, let's just line these guys up a little nicer. I think that looks a lot better. Great. What are you whining about here? Column not set. Not real concerned. Not real concerned, ReSharper. Okay, so let's go back and let's check out some of the other ones. So now we should have a toggles page with all of these guys in here. Like those. Yeah, this looks much nicer. So toggle button, toggles. I'm going to go back and look here. Should probably move the checkbox over to the toggle side, because none of these guys are the checkbox controls, with the exception of this guy right here. But it probably actually belongs on this side with the actual check marks. Yeah, so we should move the check marks. That's going to be a C# change, so we will do that after we get the app stopped. So the rating bars are working. Oh, read-only rating bar. So I can't click on it. Okay. So yeah, I think that looks really nice. I think just moving that one last header over. Nope, that is not the page I wanted to load. So let's go move that. Is it main page view model? Where those guys live? Or is it right in the main window? It's in the view model. So I think that's domains, main window view model. So all of those, this is kind of a constant question I've seen a lot. People ask kind of the basic question of, how do I do a navigation similar to where the demo app does it? So there's a couple pieces that all go into it, and let's walk through those real quick and I'll show you where all of those are located. So it starts with the main window. So in the main window, the key layout pieces are first this drawer host. This is what's giving that flyout from the left with all the navigation options. And so on the left hand side, there's this list box. I can set this guy to the side for a moment. That contains all of the items. This is just a normal list box, which is this guy right here. The key part for the navigation is this on element down. No, it's not. This is just unchecking this is just walking back up. Where is the selection? Demo list box. There it is. So this scroll viewer and content control, this is this main view area here. These guys are, the content is bound to the selected item in that list box. So when the selected item change, it goes and pulls in various properties off of that item. So we'll look at the item in a minute, but it's got things about the horizontal scroll bar visibility, margins. The important one is the content itself, to be able to set all of those up, and then the documentation links for the top. That's sort of how that layout is getting done. The other bit that goes along with this is there's two toggle buttons kind of at play here. So this toggle button right here is this back arrow that you see, and you can kind of watch it animate and see how it's always there. But there's this other toggle button on the main color zone, this hamburger menu one. So this guy is this toggle button right here, and he has a slightly different style. This is just a really convenient style that sets up the icons and whatnot. There's nothing really fancy about this toggle button aside from the hamburger icon and the fancy animations that go along with it. So this guy here, and let's see, is what these guys end up getting bound to. So these guys are both watching the same is checked state to know whether to open or close this left drawer, which is what's ultimately opening and closing it. So then the last piece from this list box, it's bound to this collection of demo items. So on the view model itself, we have a demo items array, and this demo item itself has a bunch of things on it. It's got a name, which is what gets displayed in the list box. It's got the content, and then it's got a collection of those documentation links that go along the top. So, and then here's also where it pulls in the scroll bar visibility and all of that jazz. So in our case, we just want to move one of the documentation links from buttons, specifically the one about checkbox, and we should stop execution. So we want to move that one down to be part of the toggles down here. And we'll just fire it up one more time to make sure that change fixes it. And we are probably pretty close on getting this guy done. Cool. Let's check this guy out and we'll see what's going on. So now if I go to buttons, I no longer see checkbox along the top. And if I go to toggles, checkbox is there. And it opens the documentation page, which actually takes you to the theme dictionary for all of the checkbox controls. So if you're ever looking at these and going, oh, where is this style defined? Usually you can find a reference to it right up at the top that you can click on. It should take you right to it. So let's go through, back to the lovely Get Crackin', and let's see here. Stage all changes. So added a little padding to the buttons view. I guess we should little margin, and moved documentation link for checkbox onto the toggles page. Cool. Commit these changes and main button cleanup. Great. We'll push this guy back out and then we will get that one merged in. Excellent. Let's go back to our pull request. So this guy should kick off. GitHub notices were different. And I'm just going to get this guy merged and not necessarily wait on getting this. So it is 260. Not that it matters too much since it's not going out with the library, just the demo app, but I do try to keep these milestones in sync. Okay, so that gets that guy merged in. Okay, so I think what we might take a crack at is this RichTextBox one tonight, because this is something that the library has been lacking for a while, in that if you go through and add a RichTextBox to your project, there's no built-in style for it. So I think we should go through and look at what it takes to just kind of create a brand new style from scratch. So we're going to pull from master, and then I no longer need, well, let's get off that branch first. I got to clean up way too many branches. So I'll go ahead and remove that, so I don't need that anymore. And 64 remote branches. So I'll just remove some of these remotes so I don't have quite as many things to flip through. I tend to get a lot of these built up just looking at pull requests and issues that come in. We'll leave that one in for now because I think there's probably some more work that's going to happen on some of the theming stuff. But for now, we are doing create branch. So we'll do rich text box. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so let's go take a quick peek. So first thing we need to do is figure out where this guy needs to live. So down in here underneath, so in the main core library, there is a themes folder that contains all of these. And I think TextBox is probably going to do something kind of similar, but it's going to be more akin to the field text box. I'm trying to decide if we bring rich text box into there or we separate it. I think we probably separate it. Before there was a little bit of grouping with common controls here, but I think moving forward I'm probably more interested in separating things out. At a minimum, it just makes it easier when people want to go and find things. So let's kill execution and we'll add a new resource dictionary. So material, design theme, rich text box, add. Okay, the next thing we need to do is figure out what this needs to actually look like. So if we Google with Bing and jump in here, let's take a look at what the spec calls for. Since I know that there's some quite a few differences with the current version of the spec and what's in the library just due to the material design 2.0 update that they did. So if people find issues there, please log them. I know that there are differences throughout this library and I haven't spent a lot of time going through and finding those. So if you come across one, I'd appreciate a log, specifically if you can link back to the corresponding documentation page and point out what's different. That makes my life a lot easier when it comes time to fix it, or if you just want to fix it yourself. Either one is good by me. So fields outlined. So this is just a simple field. I was hoping they had an example of a multi-line text box. container label input text. This is just our validation stuff, icons. Prefix, states, outline text field, dense. Single line text fields, multi-line text fields. So this is a key thing here in that it starts, the multi-line ones and text areas start as single line and expand out. Now, this shouldn't be too bad. This is really similar to the default behavior, and so we'll probably be able to get a lot of reuse out of the existing stuff that we have. Okay, so they don't draw much of a distinction between multi-line and single line, which is fine. We have a concept of a rich text box, but I think in the purpose of this library, rich text box just means that we're going to be able to do some fancy formatting inside of this. I don't know if it makes a lot of sense to do much more beyond that. Hey, Corey. I think I'm running solo today. I don't know how much to trust my viewer count, but you may very well be the only one watching this live. So enjoy. We're making pretty text boxes tonight, if that helps. Yeah, I think this is what we're going to build out. So last thing to take a look at is WPF default control templates. So we can go and look at the default control template for the rich text box. That's fine. I just enjoy talking to myself, Corey, so it doesn't bother me at all. Because I'm probably going to be spending my night doing this coding anyway, I might as well share the experience and at least record it so others can enjoy it. So rich text box, interesting. Do you not have a default template? No, that can't be right, can it? Is it just falling back into text box and reusing it? No, that's got to be a documentation flaw. Oh, and this is the problem with me just talking away and not paying attention. I've been on the wrong screen this entire time. Well, that's embarrassing. Thank you. I appreciate somebody pointing that out. I will probably want to go through and edit this video. I'm somewhat tempted to go through and kill the recording and start over. Meh, I've been talking enough. Why throw away a good half hour of me talking? Though me clearly talking to myself, I should not have multiple scenes going. How is the audio, by the way? Is it decent? I changed up my mic that I'm using for tonight, and I'm hoping it comes out a little bit better. Awesome. That's what we like to hear. Cool. Well, if this is the case, what do we got going on here? Why are you confused? I think ReSharper just has lost its mind on what resource dictionaries are being pulled in. So, rich text box. Let's just look real quick. Object browser. Sort of curious where, because I'm not as familiar with the rich text box hierarchy. I don't remember where it is, so we're just going to cheat. So grab library types and go hunt it down. Thank you. We'll just go look at it in the decompiled source real quick. Because it does derive from TextBox base, which I think is going to make this a lot easier, because both TextBox and RichTextBox have a common base class. So we can probably leverage our existing style quite a bit to get away with this. So let's start with this. Copy and paste, little editor inheritance, and we'll just bring this guy down, and then we will just base this style on base style. Cool. TextBox base. There we go. So most of these setters now become completely redundant, but at least we've got a common template that we can work on. And this may be all it takes to start enabling the RichTextBox. So we'll get one added into our demo app. That is, and then go from there. So that makes the default style pretty simple. And then back over in our RichTextBox control, we'll just bring in the other resource dictionary. So we're already inside of a resource dictionary, so add to the merge dictionaries collection. Source, material design theme, TextBox. Cool. So that brings in the base, and then style, target type, RichTextBox based on material design on TextBox base. And we should give this guy a key. What was the order? We've been doing it first. I think in the interest of naming, we just stick with RichTextBox. Now the last thing, because we've given these styles a key, they aren't going to implicitly match on the control type. So the other place where we actually need to bring this in is that defaults resource dictionary. So this guy has a whole bunch of stuff. So let's see, let's keep it alphabetized. So that doesn't matter. Radio button. We'll just bring in RichTextBox here. Like that. And then down here, all of these are now implicit styles. And this is why when you bring in this defaults dictionary, your entire app gets themed out appropriately. This is the magic mapping between control type into the default style that it needs. So this started alphabetized. We might clean this up a little bit. So I can spell, at least some days I can spell. List view. View comes after B. So move you guys up. Yeah, that looks right. Let's see. Tooltip, tree view, menu is the other one. So let's move you up. L and then M. And let's see, what do we got going on here? So this is a keyed style on the menu item separator style. So this is, there's a lot of well-known resource keys that get defined, that get used by the system. So this is how the default separator looks it up, I believe, inside of like menus and things like list box. If you bring in a separator, is rather than just keying on the type, it has a an actual resource key so that that one style doesn't apply to everything. But I think that gets us pretty close. So in our case, we just want to bring in RichTextBox here. So RichTextBox. See you, Court. Let's see. Material design. Let's see. Material design. I can't even remember. RichTextBox. So that should now give us a default style there. Okay. Let's go add one to our demo app and see how this works. So text fields. This is another one that probably needs to get broken up, but that is a little beyond the scope of what we're doing here. So let's start up the demo and we will take a look at where we've got space and get this one brought in. So I apologize for hiding my screen for the first half hour for anyone tuning in late. So people who are interested, it's this issue here for the 2.6.0 release that we're looking to address, of bringing in a default style for the RichTextBox. Because right now if you add one to your app with this library, you just get the default WPF style, which does not match the material design theme at all. So we're looking to at least get it pretty close. While that's thinking about it, we do have sort of the documentation for material design doesn't separate regular text boxes from rich text boxes. So we're ultimately going to try and leverage as much of our existing styles as we can just to get the same look and feel across the board. And then we'll maybe throw in a couple hyperlinks or something inside of it so that we can take a look at it. So this is, I think, where I'd probably want to put it. Yeah, because we've got a lot of stuff going on in here. Oh, interesting. These checkboxes are in here, and they probably need to be moved into the toggles page. Because now we've got two sets of checkboxes being shown off. I think that needs to be another issue real quick. While we're in here and thinking about it, let's go ahead and log that. So, new issue. So new issue. Merge check boxes onto new toggles page in demo app. So I know that right now there are checkboxes being shown in the text fields page. We should probably just add a quick link so anyone coming in here can find it. So we will back out and grab the demo app, and then it was the text fields page. And we'll put some spaces in here. Text field. And the demo app. These should be moved onto the new toggles view. And we will add a link to that so that people know where it's going. So back up and go down here to the toggles. Show that off. And let's see, labels. Let's see, good first issue. So just for anybody watching, if I tag an issue or with good first issue, I want people to feel very free to pick this up. This means that not only do I think that it's a reasonably low bar of entry, it means that if you have any issues, please feel free to message me, comment on here. People commenting or trying to work on good first issues, especially new committers, are going to get my attention first, because I want to try and encourage as many people to be able to contribute and bring forward and help promote this project as we can. So just be aware, if you see this on here, it is definitely, and the issue looks like something you want to do, please pick it up and take a stab at it. Okay, so we'll slap that guy in there. Submit new issue. Okay, not to be too distracted now from where we were at, but I think what we are going to do for now is on this field section, I think we'll just drop in a rich text box right underneath this multi-line and go from there. Because this guy is really just a multi-line text box with spell checking enabled. Yeah, let's do that. Because that's this guy right here. So, what do we got? Grid row 1, and then right below it we got grid row 2. So what is the element below it? Virtualized combo boxes. So that jumps to the other side. That's the other reason to try and somewhat break up all of these pages, is these, this gets rather complicated to go and add in more items, especially the bigger this gets. So not you, not you. We are looking for virtualized combo boxes. There you are. So all of these items here are all stuff that's hanging out on the left side between here and here. So probably some useful areas to go through and reorder things, but let's see about cleaning this up a little bit. Because really I want to virtualize combo boxes is in row 3 and this guy's in row 1, which I think is actually really convenient, because that leaves us a nice opportunity to just bump something. Oh, this is row span 2, that's why. That's why this guy's spanning a couple rows and being pushed down. So he's spanning rows 1 and 2, and we want to effectively push this guy all the way down. Well, okay, I guess we're going to have to do that. So let's just bite it off now. So this is going to need to be a new unique key, but we'll get to that in a minute. So let's do this. You're going to become a 3, grid row span, grid column, that whole thing there. That'll be fine. So we need to hunt for things that are in column 4, which is going to be this right-hand column for us. So this guy needs to bump down to a row 5. Let's see. I think we've broken our live XAML editing, which isn't too surprising. This control does some fancy stuff at build time. So there's that guy who's been pushed down. Who's the next one below it? Disabled controls. Let's see, tight space validation. So we passed disabled controls somewhere. Where are you? Why did it not show up? Is it in a different? I'm disabled, so it's got to be in here. Text block, disabled controls. So what is your parent? Ah, got it. So it's actually inside of this same stack panel. That might be okay, actually. So if that gets pushed down, and he's the only one there. So let's see. He went 5. He's going to span 3, so that puts him taking up 5, 6, and 7. So this guy should be 8, I believe. And he's only going to take 1, which puts him at a 9. And then everything's lined up correctly. So, stop here for a moment, and we're going to switch you over to a rich text box, and so yeah, we've got some stuff going on that isn't going to quite line up with everything, but yeah, let's give that a shot. Oh boy. So it is unhappy about this type converter because it doesn't know what to do with the content. So we'll just leave it empty for the moment. And we'll come back to putting some content in there. Because ultimately I think we'll probably do some more lorem ipsum, but we'll do something with, you know, bold italics and hyperlinks or whatnot in here, just to show that the rich text box looks and acts the way one would expect. Okay, so let's come back over here to our fields and see how badly we've messed this up. Target type does not match template type. Rich text box. So that means that back over here in our text box, we change the style target, but the template is still targeting text box. So let's do this and see if there's any fallout from it. I think we might just get away with it, which would be really nice. The more of this we can just offload and reuse, the better. Because I think this is probably, I don't think there's much, if anything, in this template that's using properties that directly exist on TextBox and not on TextBox base. So we'll hopefully get away with doing this, but we might have to customize it a little bit. We may end up having to add a few additional styles on the various inline elements that exist inside of a rich text box. So text fields, not implemented exception. So text hint proxy. So we've got the hint stuff that's now going to be broken as well. So what is it about you that requires a text box, and can I get away with a text box base? Because that would be really convenient if I could get away with your base class instead. So that is going to be a problem. Okay, so we'll have to write a new one of these for rich text box, but we'll take advantage of the newer syntax. Inline that guy, and proxy fabric. So let's just duplicate this guy over here real quick, and we will do the rich text box. Let's see here, got to make sure whenever I copy these files, it's very easy to get yourself in a situation where you don't pay too close attention and you end up editing the wrong file. I've done that all too many times. So, and this guy becomes a rich text box, and let's bounce back to the hint proxy fabric, and we'll just add this guy in here. feels like something that could be done a little cleaner. Let's see here. So what does this do? Hint proxy, can build, builder. Where's builders? Is just a straight list. Because this is just doing a type check and then a straight up comparison. I am tempted to switch this out, but we'll come back to it at a later point. Because there is a fun trick you can do with dynamic and typing, but this is actually grabbing derived classes too, and I don't want to accidentally switch the behavior when I'm not ready for it. So this guy, I believe, has, well, it's just, what is this content used for? Can I just kick back? It's looking for an arbitrary document. Let's see, content, obsolete. So this guy is going to be going away at some point. Fix the spelling error there while we're in here. So if that guy is going to be obsolete, let's just preemptively make our life easy and not use him. I do wonder why this interface is public, given that the implementations are all private. At a minimum, it feels like something that should move to be internal, but that's probably why this hasn't been removed. The obsolete members will likely get cleaned up in the 3.0 release, because at that point we can do breaking changes. So now we need to check if this guy is empty or not. So let's start with this. Yeah, because some of these members, like the is loaded, are on the base control, and we could probably consolidate a lot of this logic. Come back to that at a different point. Don't rename related, just this guy is fine. Thank you. So let's jump in here. And how do we tell if a rich text box is empty? I think the document has a concept of a length. How do we check if this is empty? Should serialize background. So we could look at the text pointer. I suppose we could just define if the start and the end are pointing to the same location, then this thing is empty. The problem being that the text box one treats empty strings. So for example, if we jump back over here and look at this guy's implementation, it defines it as null or empty string. So I guess space characters are fine. So yeah, we should be able to just do if document content start equals content end, then it's empty. Okay, cool. This just works. Cool. So that should fix the hint fabric stuff. Okay, let's try again. see what we got. Hey, we're loaded. Look at that. Now I believe, foo, we now have bolded text, italicized text. Look at that. That's what we wanted. There is this hint assist. So let's pull this guy out. What does this guy do? Multiline text. We aren't getting our hint to display, which I suspect is probably having to do with that hint fabric that we just wrote. So I believe this is empty call is what is the trigger for this. Content start. Let's see, evaluate this. So even though it's empty, the start and the end are not pointed at the same thing. So let's look at what we've got on document and see if there's another way we can get at this information. It might be a little bit easier. Let's see, that's just padding width, touches over text effects. Okay, so this check here is not going to work for us, which is disappointing. Content start. Oh. There is a compare to. Okay. Well, let's just try this real quick, because this might make our life a lot easier. Is there an overridden equals? Because that would be a little cleaner still. Doesn't look like it. So we're going to stick with this for now. Stick with this for now and see if this gives us our hint that we're looking for. And then hopefully this gets, we'll do up the demo with, like I said, some various text formatting with bold, italics, and hyperlinks, and then we will see what happens. Because that might get us pretty close. That way, at least people who want to use rich text boxes in their app which is interesting when you get to the end, it adds in that extra little space, and that cursor position is actually not aligned there. Is that the same problem we have here? It's actually worse here because this doesn't even show the cursor. I think there may be an open issue for this. I know we fixed various issues around cursor position and margin, and this guy down here clearly breaks it in a different way. Okay, but once again we still have this issue of when I clear all the text. Let's take a look. WPF get text, because I'd like to boil it down to just a straight string element and take a look at what is the content in there. So let's see. You grab it as a text range. Got it. And use the content and end pointer, and then from the text range you can pull it off. Got it. Anything else in here I should know about? So it does handle mouse events. Great. And it uses RTF, not HTML. But that's not a library problem, that's just a WPF issue. How to detect when text is changed, which I believe that is the same event that we're watching here, which is great. We are using the text change handler, and this guy here, perfect. So let's grab this guy, kill execution real quick, and we're gonna let's see, pull in the text range, please. And let's grab RichTextBox and RichTextBox. Now I am curious if this text range is mutable, because creating one of these every single time could get rather expensive. Interesting. Okay, well, we may be stuck doing this, but so we'll return is null or empty text range dot text. I'll be curious what this does, knowing that when we were just backspacing through, we were getting the start and end being separated by one character, and I assume that this might give me a space character, but I really don't know. Come on, little compiler. You can do it. You can do it. Okay, so let's go back to our text fields, take a look. So that doesn't instill a lot of confidence in me. So it's the same issue. We run into when we've backspaced through everything, it leaves an empty space there. Interesting. I'm tempted for this guy to check for and ignore white space on top of it. Okay, can become a var, clean you up. Yeah, I am very tempted to try and clean some of this stuff up. The other thing is a lot of these events are going to be firing rapidly. I am wondering if we're eating too much of a performance hit by doing this. That would be unfortunate. No joy. Okay, let's take another look here. That works. Now we do have this issue of a cursor position. I think that's probably the next bigger issue. So let's see about dealing with that. So, everybody's favorite WPF UI debugging utility, Snoop, which has just recently moved into a new org on GitHub. But this is by far one of the best UI debugging utilities. If you're doing any WPF development, I cannot imagine doing it without using Snoop. So real quick, just a quick search, WPF Snoop. And you can grab it from, I think this one here will forward to the new one. Yeah, so the link on Bing is old, but it's being forwarded. It's now under the Snoop WPF org, and you can just grab it straight from their releases page and grab the download for it. Once you get Snoop fired up, you'll get a little blue bar like this guy right here. What you want to do is grab the magnifying glass. I'll just shut this guy down real quick, and just drag it over anywhere on any window for the app that you want to snoop. And so what it ends up doing is it injects itself into the running process and fires up one of these windows. And because it's running inside of the same memory space as the current process, it has access to the entire visual tree and can let you snoop through it. In addition, it can let you modify properties. This is one of the kind of big differences between the Snoop and the built-in Visual Studio ones. Snoop, you have a lot more control over what you can edit and see change in real time. The Visual Studio one has the advantage of when you make an edit, a lot of times if it can find the corresponding source code, it'll update your source code for you as well. So there's a minor win there. But overall, I have to say I like using Snoop better than the Visual Studio ones. The other thing you can do is once you have Snoop running, holding down Control and Shift and just moving your mouse over the control that you want, you can see that border that goes and selects it. We can now dive in and it'll automatically select all the way into the visual tree for whatever element was under your cursor. It is worth knowing it will only do it where elements are hit testable. So if you've got a bunch of like hidden or non-hit testable elements there, it won't necessarily select the element that you want. So that's a WPF issue, not really a Snoop problem, but just be aware that if you can't find it, sometimes you have to select a nearby element and kind of drive through the tree to find it. So what we're interested in is figuring out why this cursor and this hint are not aligned. And I have a feeling the answer lies in here, specifically with this hint control. So this guy is getting set, and clearly the cursor's position is getting pushed over. So, but that grid and that border, so the question is, where is that guy coming from? So this comes in here, this comes in here, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the cursor's in here somewhere, and this is probably buried in this with the difference in the visual tree with the RichTextBox control, I suspect, is the container visual. And so specifically what we're going to do is I'm just going to bring this over and scroll this so we can have a little more screen real estate. This bar up here lets you filter the properties, and so I suspect that the problem is probably either with something that has margin in the name or something that has padding in the name. So I'm just going to assume it's likely one of those two things, given that this guy is offset. Could be something else, but this is probably a fair starting point. The other thing to note is Snoop will pull in attached properties. This doesn't mean that the control is actually leveraging these attached properties at all. So these can sometimes be red herrings, so don't get too lost in the weeds on some of the ones that have class name dot property name. For example, the data grid assist class shouldn't be used inside of this because there is no data grid. So we can assume that it's probably being ignored. So this guy dives in, container visual, paragraph visual, line visual. And And one of you is probably getting positioned. I wish I could keep that cursor visible. I don't suppose there's any I don't know if there's a clean way of doing that. So noticing that there's no, kind of looking for that red border once you've selected something. That usually gives you a pretty good indication. So that's interesting that that flow document is that. So let's see. Windows plus, what is it? What is the, let's just go grab magnifier. It's somewhere in here, but I expect to find it. It's my magnifier window. There you are. What is your hotkey? What is your hotkey? Windows key plus. Something must be hijacking my, there we go. That might be our culprit. And this guy here, I don't see any margin or padding. This has got a margin on the right edge. And nothing through there. It's got to be something around this guy. Let's take a look. So that guy has a width of 563, 562. That's the 1 pixel that was set on the right margin that was doing that. Oh, you know, if I remember right, there was, let's look at this control real quick. This guy here has a text view, text box view. Yeah, I think this is probably the difference. I think it's less that text view assist, text view box margin. Maybe not. I assume that this attached property, because I know on property change, this guy drills through the visual tree. So if we go and look over here, so let's see. Text, field assist. Just get you out of my way, magnifier. This guy down here has a property changed callback, and on his property changed, it goes hunting through this guy and apply text box view margin, and it's going hunting for this content host. Which it's probably finding. Let's look. Part content host. So it's finding this scroll viewer right here, right? And it's probably finding the same thing over here. The difference is this guy I don't think we want. Text field grid, scroll viewer, and then this guy comes into play. I think it's making assumptions about the contents that get put inside of this scroll viewer, because you'll notice in one case we're getting a flow document view, and in the other case it's just going to contain the grid or the text box view. So it's probably in here. So what did this modify? So it finds the scroll viewer that has the name part content host, grabs the content out of it as a framework element, and applies a margin to that framework element. Let's jump back here. So this guy is the direct child of it. Part content host. This guy's the direct child. Interesting. The content got applied down here. There must be a template between those two. Same thing applies here. So this must be the template on the scroll viewer. Why these guys get skipped and this is the direct content of it. Okay? So this guy gets it and this guy gets it. But this guy clearly is offset. Flow document view. Whereas that guy is not. So what we really want to do is either shift that hint over, shift that cursor over. And I'm not entirely sure why this one is. So 562, but what is this grid? 563. So this flow document view is roughly as big as I would expect. So why is that cursor position off? Because normally the cursor position is contained inside of here. What do you do? Desired size, effects, hint floating offset. Let's just see if this works. Not completely. Not at least with a quick runtime change at least. Okay, so back to the cursor. Let's view item padding. Overrides default style. Text block. Margin, nothing except on the right, 1 pixel. Doesn't matter. Virtualizing width. Interesting. Okay. I am not entirely clear why those things are not aligning. So I would prefer to get that cursor to shift all the way over. Let's see here. So your width, but there's this view item padding, viewport. Height, width. 15.6.562. 15.6.6024. So there's something that's adding, subtracting from that scroll viewer. Let's look at the containing grid. 15.562. 62.563. 563. Oh, interesting. This guy is much smaller, whereas the other one is larger. So this border, why are you shrinking? Show me your vertical alignment stretch. This is probably indicative of the fact that this was empty bottom. I suspect these align now, at least size-wise. I'm just trying to hunt down where these size differences are coming from. Yeah, so those two both pick up the same. So the difference has to come down to this flow document view. Let's take a look here. Flow document view. Where is this guy? Does he not exist outside? Oh, he is a Microsoft internal class. Okay. I'm wondering if current target. Wish there was an easy way. I'd love to be able to walk up its type hierarchy without doing too much work. So, selected. I haven't used this REPL much. I'm not entirely sure how it's expected to work. Selected. Okay, that's better. Selected, get type. Visual item. Resource container item. This looks like I'm falling into not quite what I want. Selected. Let's do this. Selected. Visual. Get type. Name. Flow document view. There we go. So it's just a framework element, huh? Okay. So that doesn't add. This REPL is actually rather nice. I like that. I have not made use of it before, and I need to make more use of that. So let's go back here real quick and let's take a look at our template and see what exactly it is we're setting on this. So inside of our control template, we can hide the Visual State Manager. So we've got our border, which is fine. It's just a hover border. Text field border. This is the guy that we're actually interested in. He contains a grid whose sole purpose is just to contain a bunch of stuff. So he contains the bottom line border, disabled line border, the underline control, but this border contains the actual content. This is our text field grid. He does have padding that gets set. This is top and bottom padding. that shouldn't make a difference for the left and right issue that we're dealing with. And then we fall straight into scroll viewer, which is just fine. So let's go back here and take a look. So what happens on this guy? So flow document, if this guy hypothetically starts picking up a margin, like, let's go big, 25. So the cursor moves with him. Okay. I'm wondering what happens if we do -4. Well, that looks a lot closer, doesn't it? Handle the scroll bar. Does. So I'm wondering if maybe we just apply a negative margin of -4 to that guy. So this guy was using the text field view margins. So let's take this guy, come over to our rich text box, and let's just adjust him backwards because I am not entirely clear why he's offset. But we can do this. We can import the needed types, make this a -4, so now it's a little different from the other one. And now it should just work. Hide that for now. I think this will get us at least a good step. I think the last thing is going to be to get, do they have a good set of sample text? This isn't real helpful, but this will do. We'll just grab some inline elements and slap them in. See here, fields. There, that's a little bit nicer. So spell checking should also work. Great. Let's something that it should be able to figure out. Great. Okay. That gets that going. So let's come back up here. Just grab the same bit of text. And this guy's going to be unhappy if we just dump the text straight in. But we need to figure out the actual number for this. So on the XAML display controls, these keys just have to be unique. At some point I may go through and update that library so that it auto-generates these keys, but for now it just insists on unique values. So like, I think fields 32 is unique. So you'll be number 32. Great. So that's unique in this document. And so we're going to paste this stuff in. I think if we do, just wrap it in a run. And wrap you in a flow document. And you probably want to be inside a paragraph. That gets us that much. So we can do something like this. Let's see here. If I do, because runs actually have things like font weight for bold and things like that. So maybe we change up this text a little bit and call this RichTextBox. And let's clear this up. We're gonna do some fancier formatting here. So font weight will be bold. We'll do a line break, and then we'll do another run. Font style, italics with formatting support, hyperlink, and let's see. We'll do a hyperlink click event, and let's look real quick. How do those documentation links fire off? Are they just shelling out when it comes time to open them? So yeah, they are just process start on the URL. So cool. We'll do the same thing. Routed event. Just do that for the moment. If sender is hyperlink, just grab it right off that guy. Hey, sorry about that. I have got the chat. Dodge? No, yeah, sorry. So playing on the, let me pull this up and I'll kind of walk back a little bit. So the material design in XAML toolkit, we're working on the 2.6.0 release, and specifically right now this toolkit doesn't have a style for the rich text box. So we're looking to get one implemented in the demo app for it. So getting basically a simple style. There was already a built-in template for the text box, and so we're heavily leveraging the existing controls that are there. And that's kind of where we're at. And so at this point, just trying to get the demo for this to have some useful stuff, which is over here, so that it can actually show off that we have a well-styled rich text box, if that helps you. I need to figure out how to bring this guy over. I hope that answers the question. But yeah, if you've got any questions on the library or WPF, feel free to ask them. I'm always happy to answer them and switch gears if something's useful to people. So let's see here. Navigate URI. We'll have to come up with something. We'll just navigate back to our project page while I'm thinking about it. That sounds like a great place to navigate. Copy link address. So we'll just shoot that guy back, and then in our click handler, we'll just go hyperlink, navigate URI. Just go absolute URI, should be fine. Let's see if it works. But to answer your question, my night's going rather well. How's your night going? Okay, so we've got a rich text box, bolded text with formatting. The hyperlink is not clickable and not showing up the way I would expect. Something in the back of my mind is telling me that that's normal and I have to set something to actually make it clickable. So let's adjust and we'll just snoop this guy real quick and see what's going on. Come on. Come on, find the control. There we go. Dive into the control. So there, shift that over a little bit. So let's see. Scroll viewer, grid, scroll presenter, page visual, container visual, paragraph. These rich text controls get very big very fast. Line visual. Oh, right, because those things are not full elements. Let's jump back here real quick. So I think, what is the property on this guy? I believe there is something you have to actually set on the hyperlinks to make them clickable when they're inside of a rich text box. I don't think that's it, but no. Maybe it's on the text box, the rich text box itself. Let's take a quick gander up here. Let's see, auto word selection. We'll ask the Googles. When in doubt, Google it with Bing. Let's see here. WPF, rich text box, clickable hyperlink. Something. Yeah, I feel like I've looked at these before. Is document enabled? Let's take a quick peek. Is document enabled? True. And if we look over here, hey, look at that. You clicking. So let's jump back to our click handler and see what's going on. Make sure we're actually getting into here. So that enabled the hyperlink, but it still doesn't appear to be picking up that. It's also bothering me that the cursor does not switch to the hand like you would expect for make it look like a hyperlink. This might just be an issue with our live XAML editing, so we will bounce over and see what it see if it was just the live XAML updating. Occasionally when there's issues, you can only mostly trust the live XAML update. It does a pretty good job, but because it's always updating, it's very easy to get your running application into an invalid state. So occasionally you just need to throw in the towel and restart. And always throw in the towel and restart before committing code. Never trust an intermediate state that you got to with live XAML edit, because it may not match the end result. So still not quite getting me where I'm looking for. It's about so this guy claims that there's two solutions. That is, don't. don't believe this guy actually contains a little, yeah. A lot of times you can get yourself into trouble trying to Google for these things because the Windows Forms also contains a rich text box control, and so you'll get a lot of search results that end up landing there. Let's see, so left mouse button down. So text link request navigate, or was that, did I just wire up on the wrong event? Oh, that could be our problem right there. So let's go with this. Request navigate. Go ahead and create me a new one. Just out of curiosity, you do have that on there. So we'll just grab that guy, because now we don't need to go back to the hyperlink. We can just do grab it straight off the event args, which is a little bit nicer. Okay, so format that, clean that up. That gets us a little closer. This goes away. Still not sure why my cursor's not getting set. I have a hunch. Actually, when in doubt, make the color bright and obnoxious. That way I don't accidentally forget about it and leave it checked in. But I have a hunch. Sometimes when your cursor or any kind of mouse over or hover isn't triggering, it comes to do with the hitbox on a lot of controls. Because by default, the background isn't set to transparent. It's set up as unset, which means the point that your cursor's over falls all the way through to the control below it. And sometimes it's not quite what you want. You'll find that a lot with text-based controls where your cursor changes. Still not opening. Breakpoint. And the cursor, okay, so what did you do here? So that there, this guy ended up setting a style on the hyperlink to get the cursor to switch over to the hand. So that's not a bad option, but I'm hard coding it on there. A little surprised that the request navigate on this doesn't work. Doesn't work when it's inside of a rich text box. Maybe that is expected. I don't believe this has anything to do with this library. I think it is. I think this is just an example of an issue with WPF and the default rich text box control layout. So let's actually go. This really does surprise me that this guy here is not applying. So let's do. I wonder if the read-only bit is the kicker. Ah, look at that. There it is. It doesn't fall through unless is read-only is set. Interesting. So let's take the background off. That shouldn't matter anymore. Let's throw in another line break here. Demo app. And it's happy to launch. Great. Problem being is now I obviously cannot edit it. I kind of want both. So I think what we should do is just add in the option of editing right here. So inside of this, let's do grid. It's probably going to be really unhappy with me, so let's go ahead and kill execution for the moment. Let's see, vertical alignment stretch isn't going to matter anymore, so we'll get rid of that. Let's see, a bunch of you probably still matter. Okay, let's just format these guys right on in. My multiple cursors are not working. We'll have to figure out why. Okay, so let's just do a checkbox here. Content, rich text box is read-only. Text box only checkbox. That's a nice long verbose name, and we will default it is checked. We're going to start off as true, and then this guy down here we're just going to bind to that. So binding element name rich text box is read only, and we'll bind to the is checked. There. Now we can toggle back and forth between editing it, and it'll give us a nice little header on top of that box. Oh, that did not work because we did not put any rows here. So grid, row definitions. Let's see, the first row definition, height of auto, and then we'll just let the second row fill the space, which means this guy needs to be placed into the grid row 1. That'll work. Now if we look, so I can click my links, toggle that, no linky click. But I now can edit my text, go back to read only, click the link. Cool. I like where this ended up. I think this is a good start. There's a lot to the rich text box control that can probably be done. But I think this is a pretty good place to be at. Okay, let's go back to our Get Cracking, and we will take a look at what we actually changed. So, a bunch of files changed. So, in the demo app, we added in a new XAML display region. What did we do further down? We just bumped all the other controls down. Let's just make sure that those still look reasonable. Ooh. Good. And this is why we double check. We've got these guys sitting on top of each other, which is not good. Not good. Okay, so let's fix those real quick. So, back to our demo view. Close up some of this stuff so I don't have to look at all of them. Okay, so down below, we're looking at this guy here was the combo box editable, virtualized combo boxes, and the virtualized combo boxes and disabled controls look fine. So I think he's good. 5, row span of 3. So let's jump in here. Five, row span of 3. Let's see, grid column. Looking for column 4 is what we're after, because that's going to be what's lined up directly underneath us. Possibly column 3. And maybe that was where we got it. Bit. So search. Apple, banana. This guy might be what's sitting on top of them. Let's look for tight. Grid column 4, grid row 8. This is line 334. Let's jump down here. So it's down here where we messed it up. So yeah, this guy is also in column 4, but this got bumped to an 8. Grid column 4, so this should probably be grid row 9. And what do we still got sitting on top of each other? Thinking this might actually need to be grid row 10. Let's come back to pulling these guys up. Let us this guy needs to be bumped down. Yeah, we've got that validation issue. Go away. I don't want to look at you right now. So tight space. So selected item and drop down. Virtualized combo boxes. Display selected item and drop down. Display selected item and drop down. We've got a bunch of things here that are sitting where they shouldn't be. So let's see, we've got you and you. So I can collapse you, I can collapse you, Grid row 8, grid row 7. This is another good reason why this thing needs to be separated out into its own individual pages, because we've got way too much going on in here. Way too much. It is a little too confusing to find your way around. Column 1. Okay, so there's that for display item tight space validation. Row 9. Row 10. Row 11. So row 1. This becomes a 12. So that's taking 11 and 12. This should become a 13. 13, 14, 15 here. And this becomes 16. This goes to an 18. This goes to a 19. Okay. That's better. There. Okay, so that's now fixed. We can stage that guy. Let's see what we did in the code behind. So code behind, white space cleanup, and we added a navigation handler. That's great. Hint proxy fabric. Just added the new one for the rich text box. Again, I think there's probably some cleanup that can happen there. Let's see here. New guy for rich text box. And this guy here, just a null check cleanup. See, spelling fix on the interface. And in the core project we have a new rich text box template. We reference it here to include it. We reordered some of these items down here, and then most importantly we created an implicit style targeting the rich text box pointed at our new style. Great. New resource dictionary, largely using the same base style that we had before. We had to deal with the view margin stuff to get it to line up with our hint, which is fine. Still a little confused as to where that extra margin's coming from. We technically created a new style called Material Design Text Box Base, because it's targeting the base text box, which is the parent type for both text box and rich text box. Updated the control template to match, and then changed this guy to just reference the Material Design Text Box base control. That way anybody who's still using this style, everything still works, so there's just a new parent to it. Okay. So first cut at adding rich text box style. Fixes. We'll leave that off for now, I guess. We will add the link to the issue when we do the pull request. So there's that. Commit, push. Sure, looks great. Go, get cracking, go. Okay, now I got way too many tabs open, so let's fall back a little bit. And we'll jump back to the root repository, and this guy here is what we're looking for. So issue 245. So new pull request. So we'll put fixes pound 245. So if you put there's a couple different strings you can put here, but if you type fixes and then the issue number, when the pull request gets merged, it'll automatically close the issue. So we'll just tag that guy up. We know this is going to go into 260 and create pull request. We're going to let this guy go in. And then more importantly, we're going to wait and see. The CI system will pick it up here in just a minute and run the pull request to verify things are working as expected. There it is. So it won't actually let you, or I should say we shouldn't merge pull requests until we verify the CI system is working. There's not a lot of unit tests, and I wouldn't expect this to fail, but just in the event we forgot to commit something or something doesn't line up, it's always best to verify. At minimum, you compile on another machine. So with that, I think we will probably call it a night. So new theme for RichTextBox should be implemented, and I'm going to just put my name on this real quick so people understand that it's been taken and being worked on. And this guy here, if we refresh, it should show a link now to the pull request as well, since we typed in that fixes and pound. GitHub is nice and automatically puts links to things that are related. So perfect. If people have any questions, thoughts, or other stuff you want to see, my plan is to pretty much finish off this 260 release. There's a few more things in here worth getting in and doing. The scroll bar style is probably going to be the next one to bring in and get that done. Those are the rich text box and the theming stuff, and probably some of these other styles are just going to be some nice updates in the 260 for everybody who's looking to get those. So with that, I think I'm going to be signing off for the night, and we will be doing it again next week. Looking forward to it.